question. Suppose, Lord Russell, this film were to be looked at by our descendants, like a Dead Sea Scroll in 1,000 years' time. What would you think it's worth telling that generation about the life you've lived and the lessons you've learned from it?
I should like to say two things. One intellectual and one moral. The intellectual thing I should want to say to them is this. When you are studying any matter or considering any philosophy, ask yourself only what are the facts and what is the truth that the facts bear out. Never let yourself be diverted either by what you wish to believe or by what you think could have beneficent social effects if it were believed. But look only and solely at what are the facts. That is the intellectual thing that I should wish to say. The moral thing I should wish to say to them is very simple. I should say, love is wise, hatred is foolish. In this world, which is getting more and more closely interconnected, we have to learn to tolerate each other. We have to learn to put up with the fact that some people say things that we don't like. We can only live together in that way. And if we are to live together and not die together, we must learn a kind of charity and a kind of tolerance, which is absolutely vital to the continuation of human life on this planet.
Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another live stream of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name is Luis Jimenez. Today we are doing our Wednesday review of Skinwalker Ranch, and it is the last episode, episode 10, the finale. Let's get into it, shall we? Thank you guys so much for being here. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Joe, Fifi, Brandon, Max, Brandon again, Shadi, thank you guys so much. Duncan, Sir Grizz, Fifi, J. Allen Heinigan in the house, Brandon Roberts, hides in the long grass. Thank you all so much for being here. Skinwalker Ranch dressing is back. Love it. Dallas 214-972. Thank you guys. Baby Goat. All of you, Curious George, thank you all so much. John Hunsley, you're the absolute best. All right, let's get into it. Let's bring in our co-hosts. Rather will be here about halfway through. He had a little work meeting, so he'll come in and give his final review as well. But let's bring in our usual gang of suspects, Mr. Jazz Shaw, UFO Jane, Christina Gomez. How's everyone doing tonight? Afternoon?
Pumped,
right?
Ready for this.
We made it. We made it to the last episode of the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. It's a little bittersweet. But this was a lot of fun, you guys. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here. I know this is once a week. It's a thing. It's like it's a commitment. So I appreciate all of your time and all of your energy and everybody who's watched. Max Alt with a £5 donation, I believe. I got a free fever from YouTube. You guys deserve it. Fiverr. Sorry.
You gave me fever.
Yeah, I'm can't read today. Thank you so much, Max. I appreciate it.
Saturday Night Fiverr. Yes.
Saturday Night Fiverr. Oh, there you go. So you guys, this was a cool episode. It was a little different than I expected. I was hoping that maybe we got another, like half the episode would have been a cool experiment, but we pretty much got an overview of the entire season, which is what we were kind of going to do anyway. So it was an interesting episode, and there was also some interesting guests at this roundtable. But before we get to that, I guess let's talk about the very first thing. First of all, the name of the episode is called Photo Finish. And I'm always really bad with reminding people, but yeah, spoiler alerts. Like we're going to go over the whole episode. I feel like I've only done that maybe 3 times out of 10 episodes, but yeah, anyway, spoiler alerts. So we had Pete Kelsey, who's, quote, a technologist. I mean, I drone operator for the day, and he was doing a photogrammetry, a 3D
Photogrammetry.
Photogrammetry, which is a 3D scan of the ranch, and it could reveal hidden features on the ranch. I thought this was actually pretty cool. Finally a drone, and it's put to like really good use. I feel like I don't know that drone specifically, the model of that drone, but I'd say it's safe to say the flying time of it is at least 20 minutes. And I bet it could get to at least 2,000 feet, maybe 3. Why don't you put some of the equipment on that thing? And just dangle it from there. I mean, I feel like that would be a really great way to conduct the experiments in that zone that they keep talking about. But I guess, Jess, let's start with you. What did you think of the photogrammetry? Because I had never heard that word before. Oops.
I hadn't either. I had to go look it up today after I got back from the mountains. And I was sitting there with my wife, who's done a lot of photo work, and I think it's a really cool piece of technology. It's not brand new. It's not like we haven't seen it in other technical arenas, but it flies around and it takes a just massive number of images, 360, side to side, above, below, and then feeds it into an AI system and builds a 3D picture. And then you can go afterwards and like virtually fly through it and look and see how it looks from every angle. If there's a hole, maybe if you just had one still picture, it's like, oh, there's a hole. If it's good enough, you can go fly a ways down into the hole, so long as the camera could see it at some point, and see all sorts of stuff. So that was pretty cool. I'm sure we'll get into this. We had some questions about some of the things that picked up with the plumes and things, but yeah, it was good. They had one new experiment for the final show, and they were using some good tech. And I bet there's a lot they probably didn't have time before they finished production to go through and look for other maybe signatures of some sort, that they could go and look at. So I think that's great data to have. Yeah.
Well, I just can't help but think, imagine if you had that drone taking those types of pictures every day, and you caught a UAP with that drone and it had a 3-dimensional image of it, like that would be insanely valuable. I
wonder how much that costs. I know Brandon's got a lot of money, but
yeah,
they had that guy up there for like 3 hours, if I caught that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't cheap. I mean, can you keep it there all summer, just running constantly?
Yeah.
I mean, when do you break the bank? I don't know.
I don't think getting a drone. Well, I think it just depends on how close that business is to Brandon Fugel. But let's say it's in the Uintah Basin. I can't imagine they charge more than $300 an hour.
Right. So you're there all summer, and I have no idea. Brandon's pretty rich. Maybe that's totally doable. I don't know. If I had to order that, or you had to, that'd probably be pretty pricey. But
it might be cheaper. Could be cheaper to buy your own drone and just operate it yourself.
Or hire somebody from that company to run it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or someone on the team can just train to do the drone. Like I feel like
sure.
I've got a drone. They're not easy, but they're not as difficult as they were 10 years ago. Like the drones back then, like you had to be really good expert with joysticks and sort of 3-dimensional space with 2 sticks to operate one of those. But anyway,
I'll kick this over to the ladies, I think my thing wasn't the cost of the drone so much as the background software costs to get all of that data from every possible dimension and then combine it and build it into a 3D model. I'm wondering if maybe that end of it might be even more expensive than just, hiring somebody to run the control sticks and do the drone.
Yeah, I'd be interested. No, that's okay. I mean, talk this through. I'd be interested to know what it costs to get those 3D models made, or if it's just an easy like sort of plug and play for a computer, for a rendering software or whatever. Anyway, Christina, what did you think of the the 3D imaging of the ranch?
So I thought the drone was cool science and a great evolutionary step in the research, and those anomalies illustrated by the 3D mapping of the ranch, it really gave me Stranger Thing vibes. It looked like the mind flayer was forming, in my opinion. But I do have to wonder if this new mysterious phenomenon is due to some form of gravitational lensing that goes from the mesa to that point in the air just right above the triangle. So I wonder if it's a side effect of a portal mechanism or quantum entangled particles inside the mesa. But I definitely will speak more about this when I give my theory of what's going on there. I took a ton of notes, so there was a lot that happened. But I will say the fact that they mentioned the word portals so many times in this episode was like the best part.
Yeah, every time they said the word portal, I actually thought of you. I was like, Christina's gonna love that. Jane, what would you think?
Oh, well, I mean, finally, drones. Yes, we've been asking for this all season. So it was definitely a hurrah moment. And I thought they used it really well. And sure enough, they came out with some weird looking anomalies. I'm still a little confused if we're saying, okay, this is a GPS glitch. So in another example of the ranch messing with us, right? And like messing up our experiment. Or if the idea again is, like the portal colored glasses, like everybody has on, or we're taking it more literally, like there there's portals, because it does kind of have that like, whirlpool, like tornado look to it. So it was interesting. I would have liked to have seen, I'm not going to say it right, the photogrammetry, is that right? That expert in the room when they were breaking it down, because Eric Bard said that they confirmed it wasn't common, but did he have theories on like what could have caused it? I wonder if they asked that question. I hope they would, but so maybe we'll hear. And then the other thing, just first impression of the show, is just glad to see everybody represented, all our favorite characters for the most part. But there are like a lot of experts and folks from past episodes that I want to see again and I want to hear from again. So I don't know, maybe in next week's review, or we'll hear, from folks and be able to dig in a little more.
Well, are they doing another episode?
That's what I wanted to ask, because I kept seeing this thing like this was supposed to be the finale, and then I keep seeing these promos because I get mine on Amazon because I don't get to watch it live, and it's like, and the second to last episode. Is there another finale next week, Jane?
I think there's going to be another one next week. After another season of shocking discoveries, the team reviews all the strange experiences and compelling evidence of the last 3 years.
Oh, cool. All right.
So that,
okay. Well, you know what that could be? Sometimes they have, like I know they do this with like the gold digging shows or like the crab catching shows, where after the season's over, they bring everybody from all the boats and all the fights and whatever, and they put them on a round table, and it's like a fake bar where they drink beers and talk about the season. And it doesn't count as an episode. Yeah, it doesn't count as an episode, but it's almost like it lives as its own little thing.
It says number 11. The strangest thing so far.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
Awesome.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess this is not the season-ending finale review.
Guess we're doing this again next week after my vacation's over.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's see we'll watch the episode and we'll see if it's worth, doing another review. Who knows? They may not. We'll see. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna. They might just play a bunch of stuff that we've already sort of spoken about. I'd rather get together and review the website portal for Skinwalker Ranch.
Portal?
Give our opinions. Yeah, exactly. The web portal, and give our opinions on that. And sort of play with that. That I want to come back and review. And I also want to do a whole, like, I'd rather do an episode, like a whole season review with Brandon Fugel. I was going to invite him back as well, and just ask him questions about this, this past season, and see what we, see if we can get any sort of insight or perspective on things that maybe either we got wrong or maybe we got right, or maybe he even wanted to see. Who knows? Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, I'm dying to know what Rather thinks about the sort of the 3-dimensional model portal vortex thing that showed up in 2 different spots on this drone 3D. I always have to go back photogrammetry of the ranch.
We all got this word now. I got it up
this word is, when I heard, I was like, what? I mean, like, I'm not a photographer, but I never heard that term. Anyway, but you know what I found interesting is that this drone experiment almost yielded the most interesting results out of all the experiments, other than, UAP showing up, which is also really cool. But I mean, like, I would like to see that drone in the air when you fire a rocket and a UAP comes.
That would be awesome.
Like, I think that would be really a valuable $100 an hour to spend, like, put that puppy in the air when there's an experiment going on. I think that could be really cool. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Glurp the alien has a drone. I'm sure he'd go out there. And then you have an alien, showing up on the ranch and stimulating things, right?
That could be interesting.
There should be. It seems, civilian drones are so commonplace now, and they're getting so fancy. And so I feel like there'd be plenty of people that would do it for really cheap, or almost free, that are probably pretty talented operators. And you just stick an awesome 360-degree camera on there, and then you could get a UFO from above, right? That maybe also Dr. Taylor sees with his naked eye, like, while you're on set. So on the ranch, should I say, there's a blurred line right before the entertainment and science.
Yeah. Make a note about what Taylor sees with his eye. I'm not. You guys go ahead. Make a note about that, because I got some comments about that. So,
okay.
Go
ahead. Well, I mean, Jazz, I am curious to know what your thoughts are, though, on what that drone picked up. What did you think of the
well, we haven't heard from Christina yet. Don't let the old cis ancient white dude talk before the ladies. Come on, Christina, jump in.
Well, I do have a theory, and I would like to share it with you, and it's kind of a stretch, but I find it very interesting. So I definitely often muse about the technologies we will eventually discover and use to travel to other star systems in our galaxy. And I think those discoveries will come from the understanding of the quantum realm, possibly when we finally solve the unified theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. We would then become a type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale. So I think we are seeing hints in such quantum equations about what Einstein called spooky interaction at a distance, also called quantum entanglement. So the fact that two particles can be entangled over a distance with their quantum states seems to hint that the thread between them is in a higher dimension, such as hyperspace. And I also think that the new experiments at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, are going to discover those new dimensions and the particles that can travel between them, and possibly solve the mystery of quantum gravity as well. So what if one day we can access the conduits that connect these particles for space travel? Possibly exotic particles that are quantum entangled could manifest a wormhole or a portal for going vast distances in little time instead of linear space travel. So I wonder if what was seen in that one episode this season that looked like a classic wormhole opening up in the upper atmosphere was one of those portals being opened by an extraterrestrial civilization, or even an extra dimensional dimension. Now, what would be the side effects or quantum effects of such wormholes opening and closing near to this Skinwalker Ranch. I wonder if so many manifestations of the paranormal and extraordinary, and maybe even health side effects, and the strange radio signal are all side effects of the wormhole mechanism. Maybe that metallic dome in the mesa is an ancient suspension chamber for quantum entangled particles. Now, I know that sounds like a stretch, but I think that everything is speculation and conjecture at this point. But I will say, for several months now, I have been researching portals, and I've spoken to individuals such as Trey Hudson, a former military intelligence specialist, who actually witnessed 2 people enter and exit a portal, and others who have led me to think that there are many locations around the world where portals are suspected to be involved with mysterious phenomena, such as the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts, the Bradshaw Ranch in Arizona, and locations in Brazil and Argentina. So, to conclude my theory, portals. Just portals.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
I wanted to pass to her first. By the way, these are things that like Mike Mataluni and I have been debating and discussing and, just firing off shots into the darkness about for a while. That's all really interesting. But I will say, not to totally disagree, but just to ask Christina, the science you're talking about is, as you know, very, very new.
Right.
And the ability to detect anything like that, we're using some of the most far-reaching, newest quantum stuff, like some of our best scientists talk about all the time, to even try to get hints. Since we're reviewing this show, this guy's quadcopter didn't have anything like that. He had cameras. They were visual cameras. And that's one of the things my wife and I were, going over. He wasn't detecting portals. He had cameras, and he had AI that was tying the video images from around the ranch from every angle together, which again, like I told Lou earlier, very useful. But when they started showing that black cloud coming up over one area and then over another area, remember that? Yeah, I don't think that drone was equipped to find a portal. I don't think it was equipped to find anything on the quantum level. It had video cameras. And so what was it seeing that human beings didn't see with their own eyes? Because generally those cameras, except for a little bit into the infrared, a little bit into the ultraviolet, it's seeing what the human eye sees. And my wife came up with, excuse me, a really interesting theory that if you walk out in the desert sometimes, if there's a little bit of humidity, you'll see mirages or you'll see distortions, above the sand, even though there's nothing really there, nothing hard and physical anyway. But water, as it evaporates and goes up, can make weird distortions in the light. And they're out there in kind of a desert area in the summertime doing this. And her thought was this new, I'll go look at the word again, photogrammetry. Did it have the capacity to pick up shifts in the different humidity levels that maybe a human being standing there, if they weren't looking closely, wouldn't really notice? It might be something like that, which really wouldn't be all that paranormal or exotic or anything, but it could still be totally accurate data, which is worth gathering. And I looked at that and I was just like, this is not radio level. This is not communications transmission level. This is video level. And maintaining a difference between the frequencies of what you're recording, that's really important. And that's going to come into our conversation later about the other things that they've been recording. You have to keep the frequencies in mind and what is able to capture those frequencies. Your eyes have a band. The best among us, there's a very limited band of what you can actually see and your brain can record. Same thing with your ears, and it's a much lower level, obviously. That photogrammetry mission, I think it was very valuable. it wasn't picking up anything at 1.6 gigahertz. It wasn't picking up anything that was coming in, from some sort of quantum disturbance or whatever, as far as I can tell. It would have been something that could be seen, or at least if you were paying attention, could be seeable, because it was in video. What was it? I don't know. I'd like to know. But I think that was one of the things in the show this season, when they photographed that sort of black hazy thing with that. I think there could be a very mundane explanation for that, because the camera wasn't capable of capturing much beyond the mundane. I'll shut up now.
Okay, I have notes on this, but to go off what you said, but effects, what we saw, maybe there was light bending going on because of gravitational lensing. That cloud could be the link, that thing sticking up, the two of them, that is having visual distortions occur. Remember that distortions have been mapped in that space above the triangle on several occasions. Is there a potential static portal 3,000 feet above the triangle, which is somehow being energetically fed from within the mesa? And then maybe that's what the drone saw, the visual distortion of some exotic matter that distorts the space around it.
Sure. I mean, we don't really know what a portal is or what the physics behind it are, so I guess you can't rule anything out, really. But I mean, just from a prosaic perspective, if it sees something like a cloud like that, unless it's what you're saying, the rest of the stuff we can define pretty well at this point.
Well, and so we have. Sorry, what did you say?
No, go ahead, Jane. Go ahead, Jane.
Yeah. I was going to just say, there is a big gap, kind of like Jazz was saying, too, between, actual reality, what the universe is, and what we can test in, a show like Skinwalker Ranch, just limited time means and all that. So I think all those theories are good and well, but then when it comes down to the actual evidence, we have to take a step back, right? And we actually have to toss out the theories completely, and then go down the checklist of what are the conventional, man-made prosaic explanations. And for pretty much, with the exception of, I want to say, a handful, and all of the UFOs that they revisited in this finale, and this is just from, again, this comes from, I do not have a degree in ufology, but I have been looking at videos and photos for over 10 years. And I mean, like, straight. I've documented probably close to, like, it's probably coming up to 2,000, but I mean, it's well over 1,000 cases, right?
She documented
mainly here in Texas. So I do get kind of used to seeing certain things. And the primary videos that they highlighted to me show things that I'm not saying that it isn't alien or portals or mysterious. I agree, they're unidentified. But there are very potential conventional explanations for them. The hovering lights, again, I've proposed it before. That is what sky lanterns look like. That is what Chinese lanterns look like. Drones are, the declassified, now known military, drones we have can go, they can go like 7,000 plus miles per hour. They can go higher than planes. They can go like 60,000 feet. And, this is military stuff. But, could there be, to my point of my theories of what's going on the ranch, I do think I see evidence of cloaking, perhaps, right? Like, this plane wasn't supposed to be on air traffic control, though note, I'm not sure that drones do show up for people. Yeah, and this is such an extreme, I hate it because there's not really great Chinese lantern videos, and you mostly just see them like being taken off. This is super extreme. But on this one, you can even like scan to like 57 mark, and you can kind of see them up in the sky, and you can just see if it's a still night, they will just hover. There's that other one too, Lou, that just shows the single Chinese lantern, just like in a daytime sky. Because I don't know how many people have seen lanterns or know that this happens. And so typically if I get like a case of there's a bunch of orange lights stationary in the sky or kind of dancing or disappearing and reappearing, I'll go look up and I'll be like, was this a Saturday night Friday night, right? Or something like that. And then I look for any other known observables. And if there aren't any, known observables, it's like, okay, could it be aliens? It could, but it still could be lanterns. So that was one example. And you don't have to show the solo one, but they can just kind of sit there in the sky, and they're just these completely solid, silent, bright lights, right? And they can appear to like float around and dance. And then, people have spectacularly advanced drones where they attach these camera lights that block out their navigation lights, and they can go super high. So they can be silent, and they look like just orbs of light, and I featured, not even a video I sent you ahead of time, Lou, but I just featured, a video on my website, and my headline is UFO or drone. And because they're so advanced nowadays, and it's really hard to tell the difference. And let's just say, if I am an extraterrestrial visiting, this is kind of a great time to, because I could probably come down in my advanced craft, do some crazy moves, like spy, almost be obvious, and it would be easy to get lumped in. So it's like, you kind of have me at the advanced tech, like this is just a lantern, right? And if this is at nighttime and it's a little bit higher, right, and there's like 5 other ones, by them, and it can look, kind of crazy.
Let's get a poll with the viewers. By the way, I think Jane just let the cat out of the bag. She revealed it. Jane is actually an extraterrestrial. I think she just
Right.
let that. She just let that know. Let
Trying
everybody
to
know that.
well.
So
Yeah.
Um,
she's like, don't worry about me. I'm probably just, some lady with a really nice print. My wife wants to know where you got the fabric for that, by the way.
Oh, it's Amazon.
Yeah.
You can probably just search UFO dress.
Okay.
It's probably still on there.
I'll shoot you a DM, put you in touch with her. I'm shutting up. Go ahead.
I don't want to labor too long. I mean, I know I sent you some drone footage too, which is probably better. And then also, it's like the anytime you have this night vision, especially security camera videos that show objects like bugs, just it's an ongoing debate in the UFO community. Is it a bug? Is it a UFO? Is it a drone? Is it a UFO? So my point is I don't know if it's a bug or if it's a drone. But what I will say is I do think some of them are drones. I do think some of them are bugs. It should be okay for me to throw that theory out there and not be called like I'm questioning, Dr. Taylor's, scientific, theories about things, right? And then the other thing I would say, though, more certainly than whether something is an alien or not, is this is not unique to Skinwalker Ranch. So if we do conclude that this group of evidence that we've seen did show UFOs, like we follow up and we find out, oh, that really definitely wasn't Chinese lanterns. There's a longer video. You can see one that's hovering and then it takes off like a jet or something, right? Then I would suggest that this is happening all over the country because I see videos and photos like these pretty regularly. So then we're like, well, is this even anything? Is this just the UAP UFO phenomenon, and we're taking, we're just with the microscope kind of for the first time, seriously looking at the phenomenon just at this location? Or is the ranch actually increasing it? Yeah.
Well, like I said, we are totally in a speculative zone. We can conjecture all kind of theories, but I'm coming at this from an angle of what may possibly connect all of the phenomenon that is going on at the ranch. So sure, we have conventional explanations, but aren't we at a place 3 seasons later, okay, and now decades later, since all the strange stuff started being investigated, where the entire mystery should have been resolved? I mean, this season has seen anomalies, some of which don't seem to have any easy conventional explanations. That doesn't make my theory valid. I'm just approaching this from an unusual angle, trying to visualize the side effects of tech that haven't been discovered yet, which another civilization older than ours might be using. These are just theories.
Yeah, I think I think well, that's why I enjoy you on the show, because you do think outside the box and you try to connect. Okay, well, how do these things connect to each other, and what could be the dome? What could be these things that are being seen in the sky? Are they coming through portals? And I would say, and we got Rather waiting in the back. We'll bring him on here in a second. I would say that you both make amazing points. Both of you. I think both of you are making really good points. And I was thinking as you were saying portal, because when you say portal, part of me goes, it just like, to me, it's so fantastic. It's such a fantastical idea. Like, it's hard for me to wrap my brain about the possibility of a portal. And then I started asking myself, and Jazz had kind of brushed on it. It's like, well, what is the definition of a portal? What would that look like? How would we discover it? And this idea that every time we do poke this nest, even if they're just rockets, it seems like something does appear and then is quickly gone or blinks out or whatever the object tends to do. And it seems like we're getting those weird anomalies. And in some cases, I think in some cases, a conventional explanation does fit some of these things we're looking at. And in other cases, I don't know if it does. And it's bottom line is, either way, it's worthy looking at and investigating further and trying to get clarity on. But with that said, let's bring on Mr. Rather be Squidding. Rather, what's shaking, buddy?
Hey guys. Yeah, not too much. Sorry, I was a little late here. It looks like I missed some great portal discussion.
Yeah, we just got into portal discussion, but also, possible conventional explanations for some of these things are seen. But this discussion started around the first experiment that happened on the ranch in the show with the drone. And I thought it was a very valuable experiment, one of the most valuable experiments that we've seen. And then, of course, we started talking about
photogrammetry.
Yeah, and photogrammetry, which is a new word that the show, I think, invented. I think we're all on the same page there. But I'm curious to know, what did you think of that first experiment, and sort of, and what do you think of the idea of these lights that are being seen, possibly coming through a portal that we can't see with the naked eye, or any sort of instrument that sees in that spectrum? Because when I think of portal, and the reason, the reason why it kind of makes me go, oh, is when I think of portal, my brain immediately goes to science fiction, like a Stargate, like the movie, or any cool science fiction movie that has, like, what's the one with Christopher Nolan and Matthew McConaughey? I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but I love what is it, you guys? Christopher Nolan movie, Matthew McConaughey, he travels through the wormhole. Interstellar, there you go. Yeah. And he ends up knocking, he's the one who's knocking on his daughter's shelf. It's amazing. Absolutely watch Interstellar. But like, that's like, to me, like, when I think of wormholes, I think of things like that. So I don't see that in the show. And so that's why I'm like, but then again, that perception or idea of a wormhole could be completely wrong, and maybe there is, we just haven't seen it yet, or we don't have the right instruments to see it. But go ahead, Rather.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you have the right idea. The portal is traditionally kind of thought of as a wormhole, linking two separate times and space-time to each other. I don't think that I haven't seen enough evidence on the show to kind of lead me to there being a portal. You hear George Knapp talking this recent episode about the OSAP investigations, where they actually did see something that looked like a portal, right? They saw a region in the sky when it was night, and they saw daylight through that thing, which, I think if we saw something like that on the show, I'd be like, wow, maybe there is a portal there. But so far we haven't really seen anything that really matches that really out there experiences that people claim that they had during OSAP. So, I'm not going to throw that possibility out, but I'm not convinced of it yet. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about for sure. And then when you get to the drone footage of the first experiment that they ran, I was at first kind of impressed by that, but then I kind of thought about it a little bit more. And this method that they're using, it's not using LiDAR, or it's not using any kind of sensor that might be able to sense something that's not there, right? It's literally just taking a bunch of 2D pictures and then making a 3D object out of that using software and AI. So I wasn't really convinced that what we saw there, that spike, was anything more than just software artifacting, or the artifact of the software being used. And I don't think it was actually something there. I was surprised that they didn't go to that point and look up and shine some lasers at that point, or even redo the experiment again to see if they get the same results.
First time ever, folks. Just so you know, first time ever. Rather and I came to the same conclusion. So this is a first. We should celebrate this. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Sometimes, anyway.
Well, I did find it interesting that the artifacts, the color of the anomaly was the same color as the desert, which kind of led me to this sort of the same conclusion that it was an artifact from the software mashing it together. They did say that they talked to the drone operator and that he had never seen anything like that before. But I do find it kind of, because I was saying, man, I think that drone would be really valuable. Say you put it in the sky when you pop up one of those rockets and a UAP shows up, and you would have almost a 3-dimensional picture of a UAP, and you could actually
that's what I'd like to see.
You could pinpoint it in the sky, and that would be awesome. Like I think that's valuable. Like I think it is a cool tool, and I'd like to see it more in season 4 if they, which it looks like we're gonna get a season 4. Or if we don't, I'd love to see it on the Skinwalker website. Maybe that's something Brandon can invest in, and they can give it a shot, or at least rent it for a few times while they're firing off rockets and just give it a shot and see what happens. I think either way, I think it's a worthy experiment, but I'm curious.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, rather to address what you said, what they captured on camera in the upper atmosphere. I've watched it so many times, frame by frame, and to me, it resembled the wormhole depicted in Deep Space Nine. Am I wrong? I mean, it opened up, it had a bright center surrounded by what seemed like energetic tendrils, and then it closed again, looking like it was playing in reverse. That's my perspective and theory, and I think the highlight of the entire season.
Yeah, and that was from episode 9, right? When they Travis ran across when something was drilling underneath him, and he saw something for a brief second, and then they later kind of confirmed that.
Yeah.
And that is definitely one of the more interesting UAPs that they found on there. One thing I'm kind of curious about this whole Skinwalker thing is, just how often stuff like that appears when they're not doing experiments. Is it really a coincidence, or does stuff like that happen kind of all the time?
That was on my list of social media questions that were sent to me, and one I picked out, and I really wish Dragon was going to be here tonight. If we go back to the end of episode 8, when you saw Travis look up and go, "What the hell's that?" or whatever he said. And there's a thing that flashed across, and like many people, I went and did a quick stop on the replay, and it was elongated, made it look longer because it was so quick. But there was something that was clearly caught by a camera that was part of the camera crew. That was one of the ones from the show crew. On the last episode, episode 9, they never even showed that. They showed the stationary camera. It's like, did you have a camera pointing up in that direction? Oh, yeah, we did. And they got a dot. It wasn't moving. It's just a dot. And I had somebody asking me on social media, it's like, if they had footage of the thing actually flying, why wouldn't they show that? And my only answer at that point was, the team has their own fixed cameras. The crew for the show, they're out there when they're out there. They do footage, they take it back, and then they determine what makes it onto the show and what makes it onto the cutting room floor. Yeah. So I see how people think there was a discrepancy between the end of episode 8 and the beginning of episode 9, and when they showed that. So I can see the discrepancy that people are seeing, but then again, I think that's more of a post-production thing. Lou, you do this for a living. I mean, the team out there on the ranch, they don't have final say about which clips go into which things that actually show up on TV, do they?
Well, only Brandon does. Brandon does have final say over the final cut, but not the rest of the team. No, they have no say or input whatsoever. They don't see the episode until we see it. They literally see it at the same time we do. But yeah, I mean, for a production drone not to capture something that they saw like that is very understandable, because a production drone is not fixed to looking at the sky. It's looking at the production, like it's focused on the ground.
But they caught a little tiny piece of it for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So,
I think, I think stuff like that's going to happen. Yeah, I
that was my take. I mean, if I was like Brandon, if I was the people on the team, I would have been like, oh no, we should use all that, but that's all happening after they all went home, right? And there's somebody out there deciding, well, we got to fit this into X amount of time. That was my take on it anyway. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm kind of with you on that. Go ahead, Jane.
Can I just say, I know that some people are bummed that I'm not like extremely impressed with some of the UFO footage in this last season. There are a few exceptions. It actually wasn't the ones featured in this finale. Like I think that one that Dr. Taylor saw with his naked eye that they then captured, it matched up to the time. Like I think that one was great. It's just not as like fun a video, right? As seeing multiple lights hovering, even though I felt that was more inexplicable. I will say the UFO UAP phenomenon, I think it's very real. And again, like I will say, I don't think it's unique to Skinwalker Ranch, and I think it's happening all the time. And I'm impressed, every week with a lot of cases and stuff, that I look through. They don't always have photos or videos, to be fair, but I feel like I need to say that. So I don't know what that means for the UFO evidence at Skinwalker Ranch. Is it even as great as stuff that Jazz has seen in upstate New York, right? And like captured with his camera, or that somebody in this live chat might be able to see.
I got better stuff than they ever got.
People are getting cool stuff all the time, is my point. And so I think I see stuff that has more of those known observables, or at least the testimony, even the eyewitness testimony. Well, I mean, look, there's reports still of entities and things like that. So,
well, I think what makes this unique, though, is that it's one area and it's multiple
sure. I'm
sightings.
so glad they're doing it.
It's not only multiple sightings. Yeah. Well, I don't know about every day, but they
on a regular basis.
At least the way the show depicts it is, it seems that every time they put something in the sky or they poke this hornet's nest, you got a very good possibility of seeing a UAP for even a split second. And in some cases, they not only corroborate what they're saying with a video from a stationary camera that records things, they've also got crew from a TV show that are also seeing these things. Right. So, it's essentially getting triangulated, and not all of them are like that, but like the one that Christina points out, the one that you pointed out, like those are, I think, as you were saying that, I'm like, Jesus, are we spoiled? Like, are we just like, it's not a craft. It didn't do a 5 observables. It could be anything. It could be whatever. Like, are we just spoiled and we just want the goods? At this point,
where's Skinny Bob?
Who doesn't want the goods? But I do want to clarify. Rather, it wasn't the UAP in episode 9. I believe it was episode 6 where Eric Bard captured on the sky pointing camera an anomaly that grew into what they called an amorphous shape and then shrunk down. So nobody saw it outside, and so that was kind of gnawing on me. I wanted to really clarify that for you, rather.
Good point.
Yeah, good point. Thanks. Yeah.
But let's go real quickly to Dr. Taylor's discussion with Seth Shostak, which I found was surprising to come on the show, because he does not usually do shows like this. He's I mean, just just Jazz's like reaction to the name Seth Shostak is basically all of UFO Twitter right now.
I'm cool.
But I found it seemed like Travis was pitching the idea of, we might have made contact with something. And I want to know, what's the protocol? What is SETI's protocol for doing this? And man, History Channel, I wrote this down. You don't even have to produce the shows, man, but moments like this where there are whole conversations on a Zoom call that we know was recorded, you should pop that on your YouTube channel and let people listen to the whole conversation, because I am dying to know how that back and forth went. You would have millions of views on it, I think. But anyway, I found it an interesting moment, but we'll start with Jane. We'll work our way up and end with Rather. Jane, what did you think?
Oh my gosh, let's get Seth Shostak on UCR. And yeah. But yeah, you guys
I don't think he'd come on.
Yeah. Exactly. You guys think that Mick West is, we'll get you. Seth Shostak's a whole other level. I got to see him speak at AlienCon once, and I got to ask him a question, and I like to think it was a surprising one for him. But I think that longer unedited interview, I wonder if maybe somewhere in there was more of a debate and more where he talked about if he really thought that signal could have been alien communication or not, because he never really said that. He just said if there was alien communication, it would be from one point of the sky. So I do feel like Dr. Taylor put some words in his mouth a little bit, but at the same time, it's it's fair to get that expertise and that and to know, I guess, what to do, if you are to find something anomalous. And I think those protocols sounded sound. So I feel like Seth Shostak saved a lot of face in this one. I think he came out pretty not too unlikable.
Yeah, well, I mean, they edited the hell out of that interview. But I love this Seth Shostak. That's what it sounds like every time somebody says his name. But Christina, what did you think of the conversation between Dr. Taylor and Seth?
Jane, I completely agree with you. He was a high profile person to have on the show. He seemed very level headed. He didn't jump to conclusions saying, oh my gosh, did you really catch alien communication? No, he's like, you need to follow all of these steps and then we can kind of go from there. So I really enjoyed that very slim conversation. And Luis, I also totally agree with you. I would love to see the entire interview to see what really went down and how long this conversation was and what they talked about in detail.
Jazz.
I'm going to let the ladies go with most of this. Somewhere out there, I'll go look and see if it's still out there. I had a brief interview with Seth a few years ago. Seth totally believes in the possibility of life elsewhere outside of our biosphere on this planet. He does not believe in the possibility of life outside of this biosphere unless SETI finds it with the methods they are using. Any other methods are not acceptable. That's all I'm going to say. We had a thing. It didn't go real well, but moving on, I think there are some possible flaws in SETI's method as we move forward. Like, not every alien civilization keeps using radio forever. If they figured out how to do instantaneous communications, things like that. But he's just like, if we don't catch it on one of the SETI radar dishes, it's not real. And at that point, the conversation for me sort of broke down. Moving on, Rather.
Well, yeah, Seth is a little bit too much of a skeptic even for me. So, I agree with all of you. I would love to see the rest of the conversation that happened there because I'm sure there's some interesting back and forth. But I think ultimately Seth did give them some good advice about how to kind of look at this 1.6 gigahertz signal, which I think is the most interesting part of the whole season, perhaps even the whole show. And that was rule out other prosaic sources. I'm not sure that they've totally done that. They haven't really gone into that much on the show at all. Here at another location, which they have done, they mentioned the radio station, but then at the end of the episode, they mentioned that UAPX also recorded the same signal around that frequency during one of their expeditions.
God.
And then, that it comes from the same spot, that it would be coming from a specific spot. And I thought that their response to that was a little bit suspect, Travis and the teams, because in previous episodes, I swore they said it's coming from everywhere. We can't triangulate it. It's coming from all around us. It's like it's, pervading the entire space. And then, But then after they talked to Seth, they were like, oh, it was coming from the top of the triangle, which I don't think that they ever established or even suggested before. So I was a little bit confused about that. It seemed like they were trying to just, meet what Seth kind of laid out for them, regardless of what they actually discovered, which was disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you guys.
Just for the record,
anybody
watching can go back a number of episodes. The first time we brought up the 6.1 gigahertz thing, and we had Dragon on the show for that one, and he was like, "Oh, I got to go talk to them about that." That's the one sticking point. Every time this comes up, and it came up again on this show, I start tuning out. It's like you're not treating this seriously. You can't go to an AM radio station and say, "Hey, we'd like you to broadcast a 6.1 gigahertz signal," or "We'd like you to listen for a 6.1 gigahertz signal and give it to us, and we're going to replay it at 6.1 gigahertz for somebody else." You know how high 6.1 gigahertz is? None of that equipment can deal with any of that. I know we've been through this before. People are getting tired of hearing me talk about it. That's not how radio works. It's just not. So I'm going to shut up now. And I know you're tired of hearing me saying it, but that's not how it works.
No, well, that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking in my brain when I was watching this conversation, I'm like, Jazz has got to be going crazy. And I was thinking of you too, rather, when they went back to the radio station aspect of this thing, because we're like, well, all they did is just replay the signal over the radio station. The radio station,
and they can't even replay that, Lou. And that's what I wanted to bring up. And I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
If you hand somebody a 1.6 gigahertz signal to a transmitter at an AM radio station and go play this, the transmitter is going to look at you, and I'm speaking metaphorically, and go, "I don't hear anything. What is that?" Now you could, and maybe they did this, and we don't know because they didn't go into the detail. If you took how it was modulated and stepped it down to an AM band, there might be some information on there. Rather could tell you about this. If you dropped it all the way from 1.6 down to the AM band, and you looked at it, is there some AM modulation? Is there some FM modulation? You might be able to translate that and put it on a radio station, put it out there so people can hear it. But you don't just hand a signal at 1.6 gigahertz to a receiver or a transmitter anywhere terrestrially. There's one type of item, and we've had this on the show before, that can actually transmit and receive these days that's used. There might be some secret programs, I don't know. Satellite radio transmitters, those huge ones that they sell, you can take down to the Amazon, and you can talk from your space on the planet up to a satellite, down to somebody else with one of these huge honking radios, and you can talk to them. The ideal frequency for that is 1.61 gigahertz. But that's like the only band the FCC has that regulates that. Nobody else uses it because the losses are too great. It's really only useful to get out of the atmosphere and back into the atmosphere, which makes it interesting for Skinwalker Ranch. But they never focus on that. I don't know why. I'm going to shut up now.
No, you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely about the modulation. I'm guessing that's what they did, is that they just kind of downstepped it.
If they stepped it down, yeah, sure. But they should have explained that rather.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, just want to say hello to the 300. Yeah, no worries. Want to say hello to the 360 people out there. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you're new to the show, like, share, subscribe. We got a show tomorrow. We're going to be talking about, speaking of skeptics, since we're on show shack. Yeah, Seth. Let's just go.
And what was that drone that took the pictures again called?
Don't even go there. Yeah, don't stop it, Jane.
Photogrammetryism.
Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the Kurt Jimungle interview with Mick West and Eric Weinstein, which was amazing, and I don't think it's getting the love on UFO Twitter that it should. And we're going to go into it tomorrow. So please join us tomorrow. It's going to be a very cool conversation. But yeah, going back to this, the next thing on the show.
I'm getting close to being out of time.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. So let's talk about this roundtable real quick. Essentially, this roundtable It was the entire show. They went through everything that they caught, and they presented it to the former governor of Utah and to George Knapp, and they had the entire Skinwalker Ranch team at this round table at the Collier's, I think, head corporate office for Brandon Fugel, which was really awesome. It was a cool office. This was like, I just felt like an evil lair. It was so cool. An evil lair in all the best ways, or like a bat cave. Anyway.
Yeah, be careful. Somebody might be watching.
Yeah, I mean, right. But the thing that struck me is the very first thing they put on the table that they consider like amazing is all of the UAP that they caught. And I don't know the total number, but let's just say it's around 6 or 7. If one of them is anomalous, that's a successful season as far as I'm concerned. That's a huge success, and I don't know if it proves that every time you poke the hornet's nest, as they say, it produces this, but I think with more time and more experiments, maybe they can prove that theory. But I would say, if I had to bet on it, that at least one of these videos or UAP that they caught is genuinely anomalous. I just have that feeling. This is speculation. I'm going to UFO Vegas. That's kind of how I feel, that one of these is they're there. How do you guys feel? And then maybe we'll go into scores. But when I say how do you feel, I mean, like, how do you feel about the whole roundtable? What was the most interesting thing that you picked out? And then we'll go to Jazz and get him out of here because I know he's running out of time. We'll start with you, rather. We'll go. We'll work.
I mean, about the videos, they many of them might be anomalous. What's kind of disappointing to me is that they have all these. They're doing a show to find UAP, and they can't get multiple camera angles. They can't get a better zoom on them to definitively tell what these things are. These videos aren't anything better than just the videos you find on the internet. So yeah, maybe one is genuine, but you would think that with the setup they have, they'd be able to convincingly show that to us, which they haven't. And, I think my main problem with this last episode was they really seem to be stepping over the bounds of what the evidence would lead them to believe. I think we had Brendan said there is visual evidence of interstellar activity. We can't definitively say that.
What did that mean?
Yeah. I mean, we don't, even if it is anomalous, we don't know that it's interstellar, right? It could be interdimensional. It could be any sorts of things. Brandon also says it redefines the vision of reality and maybe even history itself. And Taylor says, we found a dome-shaped metal object. They say a lot of things as if they found them and that they're concluding things, but the evidence just doesn't go anywhere near that. And really what was kind of the needle that broke the camel's back for me was the whole metal fragment pieces discussions and them talking about the tellurium and the other element on the opposite sides. The expert that they talked to didn't agree with that. He said there was trace elements, and there are trace elements of those elements in the Uinta Basin. So I just felt like that was either being willfully ignorant or deceptive. So I wasn't a big fan of how they did their kind of conclusion at the end there.
Jazz, what'd you think?
We're not going to get into the score part yet, I guess. So, yeah, I was disappointed most of all in the general flow and how it was handled, the people you wanted to do. I thought it was a great season. The previous week, I gave it a really good score. I've had some other good scores before. I thought there was a lot of good stuff going on. Most of this show, and my wife was the one who pointed this out to me. She was like, well, there was like 5 minutes where there was a guy with a drone who was out there looking at what might have been a dust tornado with something in it. And the rest of it pretty much was a bunch of people sitting around in a boardroom in Salt Lake, So I wasn't terribly impressed with the finale. I'm sorry. I gave a really good score last week.
it might not be. Yeah, I think we got one more.
I gave a good score last week. I was excited about that, but I was not going to go to like a 10-10 or anything because I was holding out hope that, wow, you've been holding back the good stuff. You know what? we didn't really see the good stuff.
Christina?
I think the roundtable cemented the fact that the research needs to continue in a multidisciplinary fashion. It looked like a natural evolution of the research done so far, and the conclusion is that there are more questions now than there were in the beginning of the season. Now, I understand what you mean, rather, but it's easy, I think, to get tripped up by the semantics and things that were said, maybe in the passion of the moment. But I feel that we saw the commitment and the passion that everyone at the table has on the mystery, right, going on not only at the ranch, but in the Uinta Basin area. So overall, I enjoyed the roundtable.
Jane?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know how I feel about those particular 3 sightings that they happen to showcase in the boardroom. I think there's some other UFOs, even past seasons or this season, that they've seen that are more interesting. I don't agree with you, though, Lou, that I don't know if they have any that are necessarily anomalous, because you have to have sufficient, I think, evidence to conclude something's unknown. I don't know that there's a UFO case on here that you could put on a senator's desk, really, is how I would say it. Now, could some of them be alien? Golly, like, who knows? This is Skinwalker Ranch. As far as the metals, that also bothered me, rather, because I also shared, and this is simple research online will lead you to realize that tellurium and europium actually is used in. There are some artificial, kind of theoretical, like fun uses for it. Like they're trying like photoelectrocatalysis or cataclysm. There, another really that's harder than the photogrammetry, I'll say, to be fair to myself. But that's used to like create energy in perhaps more efficient ways than electricity, right, through the oxidation of these metals, right? So why isn't that actually, man, you could even throw in, could this dome be some kind of advanced spaceship or even man-made craft, right, that nobody's telling us about, right? So I'm interested in the metals, but I am wondering if they do think that these metals could be extraterrestrial, right? And they know that there's all these dangerous effects of the ranch. Why are they passing it around a room, like handling it, like giving it to the governor? And, I assume everybody signed something, but that seemed like a little reckless if you really do believe that this metals could be, attached to some, 400-foot dome-shaped craft where, people have been passing out and having, effects of radiation. I think my big kind of theory in the end is there is something maybe causing some biological harmful effects, some radiation. I do think there could be some government surveillance, interference. There could be something going on in these mountains that has been secretive. I've talked about uranium mining. We may have seen evidence of mining with metals, not metals mined for, but leftover metals from mining done in these mountains, which can cause pollution. Uranium mining can cause some of these effects. Lastly, I'll say it was nice to have Thomas Wolfe. I can't
Winterton.
get his name right. Winterton too is great too, but the
Lindy?
guy who passed out on the ranch, right? I'm glad that we heard from him. Maybe the ranch did affect him, but remember that static noise. That's something that when you are passing out, you lose consciousness. Like, so you lose your hearing ability. I shared that I have not passed out as far as I know, but I'm prone to. So I've almost passed. Noise, upon passing out, though people do also talk about that in abduction experiences. So that's a really weird kind of angle to throw in there. So I was glad to hear from him, but again, I feel like there's, I don't know, maybe not conventional, exciting explanations for some of these things. I'm not in the portal theory yet, but just give me time. Give me another season, right? Some more experiments.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I agree with a lot of what you said. Rather, like there's no proof of a dome. There's no proof there's just no concrete proof. There's not enough scientific evidence, and maybe we're just saying that from watching the show perspective. And it's the same thing, by the way, that Eric Weinstein said about the Skinwalker show on his interview with Kurt Jaimungal, but the idea that he doesn't know if it's scientific. He would have to go to the ranch and actually look at the work that they're doing and then come to the determination if it's an actual scientific effort, which I think it is. And I think the reason why maybe sometimes Brandon Fugel might say things like that what you quoted, is because he has friends of his, Thomas Winterton and Tom Lindy, passing out and going to the hospital and being rushed and weird things happening to them, having an experience on that ranch where it changed his perspective on a lot of things. And so, I think that's where it's coming from that perspective. So I can understand from his perspective why he thinks this might be world changing, because he's experienced it. He's lived it. And so to have sort of that patience of like, okay, I'm not completely writing it off, but for me, I need to see it. I need to experience it, or I need more proof of it, or whatever, however form that comes in. But I see what you're saying, but I also understand what he's saying. Like, and so, I think, like Christina said, that everybody at that table is passionate. That's for sure. Jazz, let's get you out of here. What is your score on episode 10?
Yeah, nobody's going to like this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because that's how we do the show.
That's how we do it.
I gave really good scores the last 2 weeks in a row because I was impressed. I was not impressed with this. The only new science that I saw was the photogrammacaritolism thing. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it anymore. I thought that was interesting, and as I said, I think there could be some data there. If they analyze it and break it down, we might get something good out of it. That was pretty much it. The entire rest of the show was a group of people sitting around in Brandon's office, which is fine, and looking at reviews. So my science score is a 3 for the final. That was the only new thing we had, and it really didn't produce very much. Entertainment score, again, I think maybe it's just a side effect of the enthusiasm for the rest of the season and thinking like, and wow, the finale is going to be, holy crap, what have they got now? And it turned out to be a boardroom meeting in Salt Lake City. And why they brought George Knapp in there, who I still think is kind of complicit in the fact that he worked with the previous ownership, and a lot of data was allegedly collected that was never released, and he probably knows about that. He's not really big on transparency. I don't know. I didn't find it all that entertaining. So, but it was more entertaining than sciencey. So I'm going to go with a 7 on entertainment. But I was disappointed with the ending.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Jess. Well, we'll get you out of here. We appreciate it. It looks like we'll see you next week. Apparently, there's going to be an episode 11.
I'll be there watching.
All right, sir. We'll see you then.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Yeah. So Christina, I'm curious to know what were your thoughts on this episode? And I'm kind of actually excited. I feel like knowing that there's an 11th episode kind of changes my score on this one a little bit. I wonder if it did the same for you guys. But what do you think, Christina?
So overall, I truly enjoyed this episode. For the entertainment score, I'm giving it a 9. I enjoyed hearing the overview from everyone, and the drone usage was very cool. And as for the science score, I'm also going to give it a 9 based on the only science in this show, which was some super tech and procedure, and of course the results. So I felt that the science for this segment was great. And maybe in the next episode, that will have all the crazy stuff that we're waiting for. So I'm looking forward to the next episode for sure.
So a 9 and a 9. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Damn. That's really good. That's really good. All right, Rather, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to lower the averages a little bit, but the science, there was that drone thing, but they didn't replicate the experiment. They didn't even talk about it, like the science behind it, how the drone is assembling that 3D model and what could potentially be causing that artifacting. So I don't really think they're very heavy on the science at all. I'll give it a 2 because I do give them credit for having a Seth Stolstak on there. I thought that was pretty cool and led to some science credibility. So yeah, 2 on science. For the entertainment, it's essentially a clip show, which I thought was kind of a weird choice for presumably the season finale. I guess maybe it's not the finale.
So 11 episodes is a weird number, man. I'm curious to know.
Also, it's referred to as a finale several places on the internet, so I'm unsure what's going on there. But yeah, it seemed like an anticlimactic way to end the series. I wasn't overly entertained. I'll give it a 5. It still is a fun show. Suspend your disbelief, and it's fun. But so 2 for science, 5 for entertainment.
Jane?
Yeah, man, I was saving my 10 for this one, and
for the 10th episode.
I was pretty disappointed.
Yeah,
I liked seeing everybody. I like seeing George Knapp. I met him one time. He was really cool. So I don't know if that's just part of it. But yeah, I don't know. It was I thought what we saw in the boardroom was going to be what episode 11 was, because I could see ahead in my little app. And so, okay, what number? Man, I feel like I've been pretty high. I feel like I enjoyed the other episodes more than this one. So even if my science score was low, rockets it's still amusing, right, to watch Dr. Taylor put rockets up there. So I would say entertainment, 5, which that might be my lowest of this whole time. I've been highly entertained consistently this whole time. So this is a bit of a letdown.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I wasn't very entertained by this episode because it's just a repeat of the whole season, which is fine. I was expecting that, but now that I know there's another episode, this should have been that episode 11, kind of like a recap with the bonus with George Knapp and the former governor, round table, that sounds like a bonus episode to me. I'm curious to know, what is this bonus episode? What's going to be in it? And maybe if they've got some sort of sneak peek of what they're planning on doing in the next season, that would be cool. I'm going to give, this is probably going to be one of my lowest entertainment scores. Maybe even one of my lowest scores ever, because I'm with you. I thought it was a finale. I thought this was the last episode, so I was kind of had my expectations high. So entertainment, I'm gonna go 5. I think that might be the lowest. It's here's the things that stuck out to me from an entertainment standpoint. I loved hearing the dragon walk everyone through the experience of Tom fainting on Homestead 2, because that guy's been on this show, and especially when he straightened out the whole mutilated cow thing for us, and how people said, "Oh, it's not the same cow," when it definitely is the same cow, and he proved that to us. And he doesn't fabricate things. I don't find him to be a fabricator of stories, and his experience walking and taking Tom to the hospital, to me, that was just wow, that is cool. And that to me was the coolest part of the whole episode. Science, I'm going to give it a 2. I wanted to see that drone.
Did I give a
you might have missed it. We missed yours, Jane, I think.
I just realized that as you were saying that.
Yeah, what was your science score?
I don't know. I think 5, because I think we've been asking for drones, the whole time, and we finally got it. And that one thing I'll say though about the science thing is I do believe that science is very entertaining and can be very entertaining. I don't think it's an either or. But maybe I'm a boring person.
Well, no,
I also watch The Bachelorette, so I'm not. I can appreciate both worlds, but I think it can be entertaining. So
here's why I think you're right, because you sent me this video where these guys who had a garage fill an orb in their garage, and they explained this orb they catch, and their theory was, well, maybe it was a spider on a thing. They catch these kind of things all the time, and they usually end up being moths. But this one in particular, they really couldn't figure out, and it goes through their whole story of what they saw and how they recorded it. But what was cool is they tried to recreate the experiment, in a way. And they went back and tested, because when they came downstairs while this light was going off, they were watching it on their phone, and they were going down the stairs to see what it was. And as soon as they got down there, there was no light, and their camera systems wouldn't pick them up as they were in the garage. They had to reset the whole thing. So they were wondering, well, maybe it was because we were off the Wi-Fi and we came into the garage and the camera just didn't pick us up. But that wasn't the case. When they tried to redo it coming in from off the Wi-Fi, they go down the stairs and the camera catches them. And it's a really cool, they don't give you any sort of conclusions or what it was or anything like that. They're just like, this is the weirdest thing we've caught on our camera systems. And I'm curious to know, man, I wonder if these camera systems have some sort of glitch in them that produces these artifacts, or if these cameras are genuinely catching these artifacts. The only reason why I think it's a genuine artifact is what happened to their electronics as they were coming down to see this thing. It's an interesting story. I just put the link in the description, or not in the description, but in the live chat, and I'll include it in the description below after the show, so you guys can go check out this video. But it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool little thing. I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, the infrared's hard too, because it also, like, they're notorious for attracting bugs. So it's like this whole, and then they do create artifacts, but then like that one was really weird even to me. That's why I sent it over.
Yeah.
Is it seeing things we're not seeing too, right? Because it's also like the infrared, night vision spectrum that we're not.
I think I put a link to my show. Sorry, guys. Hold on a second. So I just
subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, subscribe if you haven't.
I want to check that out, because that looks very similar to one of those Skinwalker.
Right.
It looks exactly like the Skinwalker orb.
Yeah.
But my point of showing the video is Jane saying science could be very interesting. These guys are not scientists, and they tried to repeat the anomaly as from a recording perspective, and they couldn't repeat it, which kind of lends to the Skinwalker thing of this thing being electronic. Like when Tom said, the doctor said it was something electrical with his heart that made it skip. This is something that affected the electronics to a point where the cameras would pick up them walking into the garage after this light was it's weird. It's really, really weird, very bizarre. But the reason why it really stuck out to me, I was like, man, if they did this on Skinwalker Ranch, or maybe not even on the show, because I can understand from an editing and entertainment aspect, but if they took this and put it as a bonus on a YouTube, or put it as just like a behind the scenes for a different show, I feel like you guys are missing a huge opportunity, because people want to see you guys do things like this. So yeah, anyway.
Well, look at the most popular YouTube channels. I think also too, a lot of us are living in just like old TV ratings lands, and maybe producers are too, but there's so many science info entertainment channels with like millions of subscribers, incredibly engaged, comments on, where they go into like the nitty gritty of like, remember we were talking about that one channel where they were talking about going back and forth about the anomalies of electricity and like doing little experiments. I mean, it absolutely, science is super fascinating. It doesn't have to be either or. And I'm definitely
look at Kurt Mungo's channel. I mean, he's absolutely destroying it, and it's just it's a science channel. He teaches you how to do math. He's got little workshops on how to understand math better. I think that's where learning and expansion of these kinds of ideas is going to happen. Is going to be on platforms and mediums like this. But anyway, you guys, this was a fun episode. Maybe we'll see you next week. I don't know, Christina, if you're available to come. I thought this was the last episode. So if you guys are available to come back next week, I'd love to have you back, because it looks like we're getting an episode 11. And the same thing for you guys out there. But before we get out of here, Jane, what do you got cooking this week?
Oh man, speaking of Skinwalker Ranch, I've got a clip from that Dragon interview from a while ago. Could there have been strange, metal pieces found out the ranch, possibly. So you can check that out on YouTube. And then I'm trying to figure out TikTok. So I think if you just search UFO Jane or UFO Jane Kyle, I don't know. Hopefully I'll come up, but you can go join me over there.
Awesome. Christina, what do you got cooking?
For Mysteries with a History, tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. PST, the show is called Mysterious Undersea Relics. That's going to be pretty exciting.
Very cool.
And then follow me on Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies.
There you go. Rather, you got anything you're working on?
Yeah, I've been investigating how we might be able to communicate with other non-human intelligences here on Earth, like dolphins and parrots and stuff like that. So yeah, go over to Rather Be Squidding. I'll hope to post something soon.
Is it a conversation with Seth?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I'll see if I can make that happen. Shoshak
aroma. Anyway, you guys, tune in tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We're going to be doing our show on KGRADB, and also here on YouTube we'll be live streaming. So make sure you ring the bell to notify you. We're going to be talking tomorrow about Lua Elizondo's Brazilian UFO hearing speech that got nixed and then reappeared. Andy from that UFO podcast ended up releasing the full version of the speech that for some reason didn't play on the Brazilian floor. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We're also going to be talking about the James Webb Telescope. That was awesome, but boy, was it an awkward presentation of one of the coolest space moments ever. I want to talk and dig into that ending because it was all sorts of weird. I think there was whatever. We'll get into it tomorrow, but we're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to be talking about, what else are we talking about tomorrow? Oh yeah.
Eric Weinstein, Mick West.
Yeah. The discussion between Eric Weinstein and Mick West, because it was a very good one, a really, really good one. And I can't wait to talk about it. So with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Before you get out of here, I've got links to Christina, to Jane, to Rather, all down below. Click their links, help support their stuff. If you want to support the show, you can. We've got a Patreon link in the description below. It's a great way to support the show. For as little as $1 a month, you can help support us. If you can't, don't worry. There's no paywall here. Everything is free. So enjoy all the content. This show will be available on iTunes and Spotify very shortly after the show airs. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful night. Stay safe out there. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.